Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to show you all of the equipment you need to cultivate mushrooms at home. You can get started pretty easily with some basic equipment. So I'm going to show you what you need to do in Uncle Ben's tech, but also what you need to use traditional grain spawn. So to start, the first thing you need is your spawn. You can order spores online. This is a shiitake liquid culture that I made with a Capri Sun actually. Check out my videos on how to make liquid cultures from Capri Sun. It's pretty neat. So you need some sort of mushroom spawn, either spores, liquid culture, or colonized grain spawn. You can, again, buy all of those online if you need to, for either gourmet or medicinal mushrooms. And then the next thing you need, one thing that I'm a big proponent on, not everybody says you need it, but to have successful mushroom cultivation at home, I really think you need to have a still airbox. Mushroom cultivation is all about eliminating contamination. And so having a still airbox is one of my biggest keys to reducing contam. So you can just get a big plastic tote like this, flip it upside down, and then drill holes in it. Some people do it with the bin on the side. It doesn't really matter as long as you can put holes in it where your arms can go inside and do some work. You can see I have agar plates in here, just storing, but normally this would be emptied. I'd clean it out with alcohol and then I'd do all my mushroom work in here. And what this does, it reduces all of the airflow around your mushroom work and prevents contamination from your room getting inside. So I'd recommend you get a still air box. From there, I'm going to talk about some more contamination reducing tools that are just essential. You need to have gloves, wear a mask if you have a surgical mask. That's going to prevent contamination from your breath. The gloves are obviously keeping your hands clean. And then the other big one that you need is isopropyl alcohol. It's got to be 70%. 70% evaporates much slower than a 90% or 99% isopropyl alcohol. And so what that does is it stays on longer on the surface and kills more of the germs and bacteria. So you need to have 70% isopropyl alcohol. Get a cheap spray bottle that you can use to spray that with. This is my alcohol bottle. You can see here I have Osmium. You can also use Lysol, but this is an air sanitizer. And you can spray this in the air around your still air box. I also spray it in my still air box, and that'll help eliminate germs in the room that you're in. So moving on, the next thing you need is some sort of grain for your spawn. You need to inject your spawn onto something like rice, popcorn, oatmeal, millet, birdseed, you name it. There are a lot of grains that you can use. There's the Uncle Ben's tech, which you can use pre-cooked rice. You want whole grain. It can't be a medley. This is the only one I had, so I just wanted to show you what it looked like. But get whole grain rice, and then what you can do is actually inject your spawn directly into this bag. Everything is sterilized in there. You tape it over with some Micropore tape, let it sit for a few weeks, and then it will colonize inside of this bag. That's the easiest way to get started. Most people start with Uncle Ben's tech. That's what I started with as well. If you're moving on, that's more of a beginner's method for mushroom cultivation. If you move on to more advanced techniques, you're going to need to get different kind of grain. I'm a fan of popcorn, so I use popcorn more often than not. And then if you go this route, you also need something to store them in. So it's got to be glass jars. You put a hole in the top and then put a filter patch or Micropore tape around the hole, and that will allow for air exchange. But then you cook your grain, you load it into your jars, and then you have to pressure cook it. So you'll see back here I have my Instapot. I'm a fan of the Instapot. It's an electric pressure cooker. You don't have to have a stove top. I bought this at Goodwill for $10 a year and a half ago, and it's still working strong for me. So it doesn't have to be expensive to get into mushroom cultivation. It can be very affordable, which is one of the things I love about it. So from there, after your spawn grows, either in your Uncle Ben's bag or in your jar, you need to have some sort of substrate to expand that onto once it's done. For medicinal mushrooms, it's usually cocoa coir. You mix it with coir, you load it up into a tub, let it colonize in here, and then your mushrooms will grow in here. So you also eventually will need to get some sort of tubs. I use shoebox sized tubs. It just helps me control contamination a little bit better in my space. But you'll need to get some sort of plastic tubs. If you're growing gourmet mushrooms, most of those are wood lovers, which means they're not going to grow on cocoa coir. You need sawdust, and so these are hardwood sawdust pellets. You can buy a big 50-pound bag at your local farm and fleet store. But you hydrate these, it turns into sawdust. You then mix your spawn with the sawdust and let it colonize. The other difference here is with gourmet mushrooms, you're going to grow these more times than not in a spawn bag like this. It has a filter patch built in. You load your sawdust into here with your spawn. You actually pressure cook the sawdust first. And I do that in my Instapot, and this will fit in there. I can usually only do 1 or 2 depending on how full I load these. But then once it's sterilized and cool, you then mix your grain spawn in here with the sawdust. That will begin to colonize. And then you'll fruit either directly from the bag, or you'll remove the bag and put the block in a fruiting chamber. So moving on, you've heard me talk a few times about Micropore tape. This is what it looks like. It says Micropore. It's surgical tape. You can buy this on Amazon, but it has to be Micropore tape. This is a specialized medical tape that allows oxygen, carbon dioxide to move back and forth. So you can have air exchange, but it keeps contamination out. Regular surgical tape is too thick. It doesn't allow for that air exchange. So make sure you get Micropore tape. When you inject your Uncle Ben's bag, you'll remove a piece of Micropore tape and put it over the injection hole. Or if you cut the corners, you'll pull tape off and stick it over the corners. This stuff is super sticky. I find it really hard to work with. So something else that's really important is a nice pair of scissors. I use these to cut my Micropore tape. So make sure you have a good pair of scissors as well. So you'll see sitting up here my blowtorch. Now, do you need a blowtorch? No. But the reason I have this is because we need to flame sterilize the needles if we're injecting into an Uncle Ben's bag, or if we have a needle on the end of our syringe. We need to flame sterilize that. Anytime you do an injection, you flame sterilize it. Or if you're entering it into your grain spawn at all, it needs to be flame sterilized. You can do this over a lighter, but it takes a long time. So this is like a $15 blowtorch, and it's so easy to flame sterilize your needles. It only takes a couple seconds and you're good to go. So I recommend getting a blowtorch. You can find those for pretty cheap. The other things I wanted to mention for more advanced mushroom cultivation would be working with agar. This is a gelatin type material that you load into agar plates or into little cups like I have here. You can put mushroom spawn on here. You can put liquid culture on here, mushroom tissue. And what it does, it grows out the tissue from, or the mycelium from whatever it is that you put in here. And then you can use the agar to make liquid cultures. You can expand it into grain spawn. You can do a lot with liquid culture, or sorry, with agar plates. It's also one way to store your genetics. I have a couple that I've had on agar plates for over a year in the fridge. And then you can pull those out when you need to, and then expand it and grow more mushrooms from there. If you're doing agar work, a couple other things you need. I need to change my xacto blade first and foremost, but I use an xacto knife. A lot of people use scalpels, but every time you go in to make a cut with your agar, you're going to flame sterilize this first. And same with tweezers. If you use tweezers like these to pull your agar out, flame sterilize those first as well. That's more advanced. I would say you don't need those right out of the gate. If you're sticking with Uncle Ben's tech, the main things that you need are, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, surgical gloves, isopropyl alcohol, your still airbox like I mentioned, you need your spawn, you want a torch, and then it's really easy, really simple to get started with just that, and Micropore tape. So I would say easily for under $50, you can get started with mushroom cultivation at home. These are some of the essential tools that you need. Thanks so much for watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of other great videos on liquid cultures, Capri Sun liquid cultures that I made. Those are really neat. I also have videos showing you how to harvest mushrooms, how to dry your mushrooms, and I'll be showing you more about Uncle Ben's tech and using popcorn tech as well. So be sure to stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining today. Hope you all have a good day.